been a long time coming, but this is the EPOS H3 Hybrid, a closed acoustic gaming headset featuring USB, analog and Bluetooth 5.2 connectivity that supports PC, Mac, PS4 and 5, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and then pretty much anything that supports Bluetooth audio. We've been sent the Ghost White variant, which like their other offerings comes with a 2-year international warranty, and in the box you'll find the headset itself, a USB Type-C to Type-A cable, a 3.5mm analog cable, a magnetic cover for if you decided to attach the boom arm, and then the usual paperwork. To preface this review, I'll be temporarily swapping over from the excellent GSP601, which has found itself permanently attached to my GoXLR. With that in mind, one point I must mention is that whilst the H3 Hybrid does also offer support through its included analog cable, it does that whilst presenting a very minor but still audible amount of white noise, and this is presumably because the battery must be charged and the headset turned on in order to use it in this mode, and that's even if you don't intend on using Bluetooth. It's an odd discovery indeed, and that's particularly because active noise cancellation is reserved for their highest end H3 Pro Hybrid model, but one I must acknowledge and still mention regardless. The good news, however, is that unless you're using a GoXLR like me, you might as well connect by USB anyway, which does provide more than enough power to drive the headset at its maximum volumes, while simultaneously providing a clean signal. You'll also receive a clean signal when only using Bluetooth as well, and it's only when an analog cable is physically connected to the input that this noise appears, so hopefully it's something they could address in a future iteration. Now it's not going to bother most people, and it does fade away into the background once audio is playing, but you might notice it during quieter periods, and I should mention it anyway. Now the headset itself will take 90 minutes from 0 to full charge, and it's suggested to last 24 hours through analog, 37 through Bluetooth, and 19 when using both together. I'd say this sounds pretty accurate to me, as all of my gaming was done through a 3.5mm cable with a touch of Bluetooth, and it lasted about 23. Featuring a more compact design than its predecessors, EPOS have now clearly tried to rein in that nerdy gamer aesthetic with these new headsets. The H3 Hybrid features 40mm drivers, weighs in at under 300 grams, and although it's built primarily of plastic with a metal headband, it does feel premium in hand. Now I can't of course speak for long-term use, but thus far I've knocked it off the table at least 3 times and it's still going strong. And it allows for a decent amount of flex without worry too, the only caveat being you can't rotate the ear cups onto your chest if you are out and about. I'm happy to report there's no painful out-of-the-box clamping force present, and whilst I do believe these will fit the majority of people, I suspect those with bigger ears would prefer the larger models, and this is inherently because whilst the removable ear pads are sufficiently deep, blending a combination of leatherette and suede to maximise comfort and sound isolation, and whilst they do work well with glasses, there's not much there in terms of internal width. For me, they're more comfortable than the GSP601s, but point is, there's definitely a limit lying somewhere between both my ears and Dumbo the elephant's. On the left ear cup, you'll find 2 microphones. Firstly, the main removable boom arm, and secondly, a built-in mic that will be automatically enabled when the former is removed, i.e. do make sure to mute it on your platform of choice as necessary. Also found there is the power button, LED indicator, and the USB Type-C and analog inputs. On the right ear cup, you'll find the rotating volume dial that will present roughly 1 to 100% in range, and a smart button for both Bluetooth pairing and taking calls. So once you receive the headset, make sure to head over to the EPOS website and download their gaming suite. And once you connect digitally, you'll be able to access all of the settings and customize them in the application. Now, one thing I want to note is that on previous products, the B20 and the GSP670, the default device in Windows had to be set as that product in question in order for it to appear and be able to be customized in the software. But as of I think last week, that's now been addressed. Awesome stuff, EPOS. And now as long as it is connected digitally, you'll be able to access those settings in the application. But definitely install this straight away and make sure firmware is up to date, just so you don't run into any issues that may have already been ironed out since the manufacturing date of your headset. Beyond that, you can customize the language, choose whether it's enabled and showing up on startup, and toggle notifications on and off. But our first tab, which is Playback, gives you control over the surround effect, allowing you to enable 7.1 with a reverberation slider. Now this is virtual, and to be honest, I don't mess around with this, but it's here if you want to play. What I do recommend configuring though is this EQ, 9 steps you've got, and I'll touch upon this in the next section, but ultimately, when it comes to gaming headsets, you typically reduce the low end, which is bass, and you increase the high end, which is footsteps. And if I go ahead and choose the esports preset, what you'll see is this does just that. However, with movies, for example, you typically increase the low end, and I wouldn't necessarily increase the highs, but this one does that, and I assume music probably does the same. However, out of the box flat, I would say this headset's tuned perfectly for competitive play, and I wouldn't change it whatsoever. But when it comes to, let's say, music, movies, single player games, and maybe some competitive games, depending on your preference, it's definitely lacking some oomph in the low end for things like rocket explosions, bass, rumble, stuff like that. So definitely the bottom two, 64, 125, maybe 250 a little bit, consider increasing, and this is something you can play around with to your taste. In terms of the second tab, which is microphone, we'll start off with noise gate. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll just set back to my profile just in case my voice was dipping there, because I haven't really configured the noise gate. I just turn it off for the purpose of this video. And I also found that gain at 55, which is also the volume slider in Windows and control panel as well, is about right for this headset. Going higher tends to peak, and maybe adding a compressor EPOS in future could be great in that regard. But a noise gate, as you increase this, it's going to increase the cap. So once you stop talking, you can still type on the keyboard and you can see the line. If you move that line a little bit, anything below that line, when you're not talking is going to be cut off. So again, nice to have for those with mechanical keyboards. Side tone is me hearing myself back. Again, great for closed headset, so I'm not talking too loud. And voice enhancer is the same as an audio EQ, but for the microphone. Now, kind of like with competitive gaming, where you want to decrease the lows and increase the highs, when it comes to headset microphones on gaming headsets, they tend to be quite tinny, higher end, lacking bass. So I would probably recommend the warm preset to start with. But at the same time, I still think these high end haven't really been reduced enough. There's also a clear preset, but most importantly, a custom. So if I was to start off at the warm preset, I'd probably copy this bit, but then reduce the low end even more. Sorry, my phone dropped on the floor. So I would go down to custom. I'd probably increase this, and I'm just eyeballing it. Again, I would do it differently probably if I had the time to mess around with it. Maybe something like this, possibly. Again, you can play, see what you think, but it's just nice to have this because anything I change in here is going to be reflected in all of the applications on my PC, unlike doing something in OBS, which is only changing in OBS and not Discord or whatever else. So overall, great options here from EPOS. The only thing really missing, as I mentioned, is a compressor, and I'd like to see EPOS consider that in future. But just for a point of reference, I'm going to swap on over to the analog input now, just so you can see how it sounds before we move on to the gameplay section. So we're connected now by analog cable directly into the GoXLR. Everything is set to their default values, and this is pretty much as clean an input as you could possibly hope for. And what I'll do is I'll increase the noise gate just a touch so it gets rid of any background audio when I'm not speaking. But point is, I actually think the analog input sounds better for the microphone than USB, but the audio output sounds better over USB than through analog. So to get the best of both worlds, you'd want to mix and match, which is unfortunately not possible, but at least something for me to highlight and hopefully EPOS to work on in future. But what I'll do is try and customize the EQ again, try and match something similar. So we're going to dip down these lows, probably go there. -3, -3, probably start to bring it back now and increase the low end. Maybe something like this. This is probably how I would start. And again, I'm not listening to it back. This is all happening in real time. But what I'd do is I'd go back, listen to the VOD or open it in Audition, add a bit of a delay so I can hear myself, or even live stream and customize and tweak it on the fly while listening to the stream back on a delay, just to get it down to perfection. But in here, we also have a compressor, which is something I'd like to see added by EPOS and software as mentioned, and a de-esser, which is nice to get rid of some of those slippery S's that might appear. But yeah, let me know what you think down below and we'll go ahead and move on to the next section. So that brings us to some gameplay in the background and the overarching question, which is how do they perform and would I recommend them? Well, that ultimately comes down to you, your needs and your budget. I mean, I can't lie to you. The analog GSP 601s are not only cheaper these days, but to me they were, and well, probably still are, the best gaming headset that money can buy today, period. The only thing that even has a chance of being better than those are probably the H6 Pros, which come in at the same price, but I haven't yet had the opportunity to try them. The difference between those and these though is that here the H3 hybrids offer both USB and Bluetooth connectivity options. And it's through USB that you gain access to that EPOS gaming suite, which is constantly being worked on and is ever evolving. Certainly something to consider if you don't have an audio interface, and definitely something you will have to consider for many devices on the market today. The simple truth is that if I didn't already own and use a GoXLR, or if I didn't already have a decent sound card in storage, I'd probably already be using a USB headset like this one myself. Although at that point, I'd probably lean toward wireless 2.4 GHz options like their own GSP 670 and H3 Pro Hybrid, both also featuring live audio mixing with Bluetooth. That feature, by the way, is absolutely fantastic and might allow for multiple scenarios to improve your quality of life that you might not have even thought of. So to give you a few examples, you've just watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3 several months down the line, you're about to go live on Twitch, but you've really got the itch to listen to Awesome Mix Volume 3 and you don't want to get DMCA'd. Well, great, just connect to Spotify on your mobile phone, send it over Bluetooth to the headset, you'll be able to listen to that whilst playing your games and the stream won't be able to hear it. Alternatively, you're playing a WoW raid and your teammates don't want their voices appearing on Discord, you don't want to go to the hassle of setting up virtual audio cables and OBS plugins, well again, just connect to Discord on your mobile phone, send it to the headset, you'll be able to listen to that, but it won't appear on stream. Or maybe you're playing one of many cross-play games and you want to join your mates on Discord, but you're on PlayStation, again, launch Discord on your mobile phone, send it over to your headset, and meanwhile you can be playing on your console of choice. Bringing it back to audio performance though is of course always subjective, but in my opinion the H3 Hybrid is certainly well suited for pretty much all types of media, and that particularly includes competitive play. Positional audio is on point thanks to a tight high end that services footsteps well, and I had no issues in games like Counter-Strike, Quake and Apex Legends in identifying directional positions either. This is also complemented by a very neutral low end, although some might otherwise call that lacking, because there's no real oomph to things like rocket explosions or Bangalore's Ultimate. The reason I said it's suited to all types of media though is because this is something you can somewhat address through EQ in software, and it's for sure 100% better to add more low end in than to try and remove too much afterwards. To be realistic, you're not going to make them sound like the GSP 601 or presumably H6 Pro. They're always going to fall short, so if you are looking for peak levels of sound quality from a gaming headset, those are the two you should absolutely be looking at. And really, the TLDR is simply this. The H3 hybrids are a great headset for competitive gaming on both PC and console, however it does this in a confusing position between both the entry-level analog H3 and the highest level wireless H3 Pro Hybrid. Really, there's nothing bad that I can say about the H3 hybrids for competitive shooters, and if you can find them at a good price, and you can fit the consumer it's aimed at, i.e. you need that diverse amount of connectivity options that it offers, then there's no reason not to at least consider them. They'll serve you well in your gaming sessions to come, and you'll have no issues. For me personally though, I've got my sights firmly set on the H6 line, and as Spock would say, it's the only logical upgrade for me. Anyway, if you've enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and if you have any questions or comments, then let me know down below and I'll get back to you. If you picked up the headset or if you've already got it, make sure you let it know down below. Any comments you might have would be appreciated, and don't forget, I do stream on Twitch, so make sure to stop by and get involved in the live discussion. But for now, take care, keep gaming, and I'll see you in the next video.